have some other products and how those work. Take it away.
All right, thank you. I'm Tristina Dietz-Elmes, and I'm here in the Pebeo booth. I'm an artist from Florida, but I'm in chilly Frankfurt right now with snow out on the ground. But I wanted to show you some of Pebeo's acrylic mediums and their paints. It's not like anything that you're used to using that we get in the United States. However, now these paints are available in the United States at some of the big retailers and online. So one of my favorites is the texture gel. It comes in 4 different colors. So we have a white, a black, a red, and a yellow. Now I'm going to show you a skin that I made, because that's one of my favorite things to do with products, especially the acrylics, is to make a skin. But I want to show you how flexible this skin is with sand medium. I've not found any other sand medium on the market in the United States that's this flexible with sand. So you can make skins out of it. I simply took the sand medium with a palette knife and I put it on a silicone sheet. It's just a silicone craft sheet, and in the morning I was able to peel it up and have this. This piece is probably 4 months old, and you can see it's still just as flexible. So I can now cut it, punch it, do all kinds of different things, gluing it using gel medium down into either my art journal or onto a canvas or any other surface. So that's a very special effect from it. So it's not going to get stiff, and it's not going to peel off. Because your typical sand mediums, when you put them on a surface, if you rub over the surface the next day, a bunch of sand comes off. This uses a binder that they call Bindex. The Bindex is a very thin, almost like hand cream medium that you can embed other products in and get the flexibility of the sand. So for instance, you can put mica chips in it, you can put glass balls or beads in it and make your own skins like that, or use it just as a very aggressive, it's very thin but very aggressive binder to put it in on your surface. And it'll hold it on and locks it right onto your surface, and yet it melts away as it dries, so you barely even notice it. And you can get the Bindex in either a brilliant, which would be a gloss, or a matte. So you can create your own sort of texture gels using the Bindex. The Bindex is also a great product for putting thin papers, silks, and organzas on your work. Because I find that a gel medium, which Pebeo does have a gel medium, but a gel medium's a little thicker, and that works perfectly for thick papers like this. However, I find that when I'm working with thin papers like this, that the thin papers bunch up when you use a thicker gel. The Bindex gel, it's not liquid, so it doesn't soak into the paper and mess it up. It's still a hand cream consistency so that it works perfectly with your thin papers.
So if you were doing something, say with like a napkin, kind of like transferring a napkin to something?
Tissue, napkins, this sort of rice paper, any of your very thin, delicate papers, the Bindex is perfect for using it as a collage medium. Let's see. Another one of my favorite mediums that they make is called high density modeling paste. So it's not a light modeling paste, it's a heavy modeling paste, but it has a very textured surface. And the secret that I do with this is I either put it under my acrylic paint, I put layers of it to give great texture before putting my acrylic paint on, or I put a layer down and then I use dry pastels on top of it. It is an amazing surface for dry pastel. So what does that mean to you as a crafter or an artist? That means I can take a piece of wood or a piece of metal or something that has an unusual shape, a piece of sculpture, and I can put this medium over top of it, and then I can, after it's dry, use dry pastels or oil pastels to color it on a nice sanded, what acts like a sanded surface. So I'm a mixed media artist, so I use everything, including beautiful Sennelier and other brands of dry pastels. And so I've found that this high density modeling paste is fantastic for creating a surface. And because it's an acrylic product, if you want to create a tinted background to do your pastel work on, you simply add a few drops of acrylic paint to it and mix it in, and then you'll have a tinted background to work.
So great for using with stencils, I would assume, then as well.
Fabulous for using with stencils. As a matter of fact, I'm here with an artist from the UK, from England, named Jenny, and she's at the other table over there, and Jenny has some examples that she did last night of using the high density modeling paste with a stencil. So you might want to take a look with Jenny.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right.
So thank you.
And the studio acrylics, drying time on those? Can you
Okay.
talk a little bit about
There was a
that?
question then about the studio acrylics. Pebeo has an entire line of acrylic paints. They're regular acrylic paints, which look like this. They're called high density because they're thick when they come out of the tube. They dry matte. So that's actually fabulous. I love paint that dries matte. And most acrylic paints on the American market dry shiny. You have to look for paints that dry matte. So all of the studio acrylics from Pebeo dry matte. And they're called high density because they're thick when they come out of the tube. Okay? And then I usually use a brush or a palette knife to work with them. Now, they have a higher water content than your typical acrylics that we find in the United States. That means that it takes a little bit longer to dry. It stays open longer. That's a huge benefit if you're going to be doing printing, monotype prints like jelly prints, or if you're going to be doing screen printing with it through a stencil. Huge advantage. First of all, it's firm, so you can pull it. Second of all, it takes longer to dry, so you have a better open time on it. So that means that you'll be able to use this for those techniques like the jelly prints. They're fabulous for jelly prints. Now remember though that regular paint is going to dry matte. Then they have Dyna paints. So on the side it says Dyna. The Dyna paints are iridescents, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And they will dry shiny. And you'll be able to see the iridescence when I do this. They are just gorgeous, okay? Gorgeous. So that is your Dyna line of paints. Then they also have a line of fluorescent paints. And the fluorescent paints, this is my favorite, it's like flamingo pink, right?
Perfect for Florida.
Perfect. I use it a lot. So here's your high density flamingo pink, and it's semi-transparent. So you can put it over top of your work, and when it dries, you'll be able to see some of the work underneath it. So the high density of the plain or the regular acrylics are more opaque. They do have some transparent colors, but for the most part, they will fully cover your work. The Dyna will fully cover your work. The fluorescents, because they're semi-opaque, you'll still be able to see the work underneath it once it's dry. But yes, so thank you for asking about the acrylics, because I really love the line of the acrylics. Oh, one more thing, if you like working with glow-in-the-dark stuff, there's a phosphorescent paint. So it'll dry almost clear, but as you see here, it comes out like this. But when I do that, you see how it's You can see through it, but that'll give your paint, like if you're going to try to do something that would be black light effect, then you would use the phosphorescent paint and it would glow in the dark.
And can you mix that with the other paint so you have a different color? Or
yes, okay. You can mix the phosphorescent with other paints, and what'll happen is, depending on the opaqueness of the other paint, will determine how glow in the dark it's going to be at that point. And that reminds me of one other type of medium that Pebeo has. It's called the Bindex Dyna. So I talked about Bindex earlier, which is very thin and is excellent for using with your thinner papers, as well as putting inclusions in. However, this Dyna has with it mica. So it's Bindex with mica. When you use this, it does not dry clear. It dries milky. What it is an additive for your paints so that you can turn your regular paints into Dyna paints by adding a shimmeriness or an iridescence to them. It comes in blue, purple, and green, so that gives you an undertone. Remember your color mixing when you're working with the Dyna, because you don't want to mix a purple Dyna with a yellow paint, because otherwise you get a brown undertone. Also, there's a green Dyna. You don't want to mix the green Dyna with a red paint, otherwise you get a brown undertone. So it's just a little color theory in there. But I've actually used the Dyna Bindex for transfers. So I put down the Bindex Dyna. It'll have a shimmer to it of either that green, purple, or blue. And then while it's still wet, I do a transfer onto it. And when I rub off the paper from the transfer, you get an amazing glow behind it. Because one of the reasons that I like to do transfers is that it's very organic and there are holes in it, right? That's one of the reasons why we like to do transfers, because they're not perfect. And when you put the Dyna behind it to capture the image, it actually shimmers in those little imperfections. So it gives a really interesting finish to it. But that's the range of the Pebeo mediums, and there are many more, but that's what I'm going to share with you at this show.
Okay, perfect. And if people want to find out more about your work and the kinds of art that you like to produce, where can they find information about you?
Well, thank you for asking. I have a website. It's www.dietzart, so that's DIETZART.gallery. Gallery. Thank you. From Frankfurt, signing off.
Thank you.